Thank you for joining me today for another episode of Hunger Hunt Feast. Today, I want to share with you my most recent trip adventure to Costa Rica. I'm going to warn you, I'm both excited and exhausted. So, ramble alert is on. It's very possible I chase a bunny trail and just start talking. Uh, but I wanted to share it because it's fresh. And I literally just got back last night from 4 days of meeting with some like-minded, nutrition-wise, like-minded people in Santa Teresa, Costa Rica, beautiful area, hosted by Paul Saladino. You might know him on Instagram as Carnivore MD. He also he's the host of the Fundamental Health podcast. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast. Joe loves him. A lot of the MMA guys, love him, tag him, talk about him. He's gotten real popular with the MMA guys because of the diet that he promotes. So basically started off as carnivore and it's kind of progressed into an animal-based diet. So that's what we were all had that in common in terms of, it's just a variety of people there. It was fantastic time. And I just want to share some of it with you because it's what's happening. It's just what it just happened. And I want to share what's still fresh. So a little background of how it pulled together. It was really pulled together very quickly in June. Paul just kind of threw it out there on social media, asked who would want to join him in Santa Teresa, Costa Rica, just to get together, enjoy the area, eat some great meat, share experiences with the diet, life experiences, lifestyle changes. No real agenda, you just cover your own travel costs and whatever activities we put together. But he had just moved there. He bought a house there. And he just threw it out, see who would want to come, who'd be willing to come meet there and have what he called the remembering, basically just to contemplate, looking back at how we used to eat, how we should be eating now, how we can, make that work in our current day. What can we do to bring back some of the aspects of the way life was several hundred years ago, thousands of years ago, wherever you want to look, that would benefit us now, that would improve the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we move, the way we live, our long-term health, and how we interact with each other and manage life, stress, all the stresses that come with it. How do you continue to make a living, but do it in a way that you can do it without sacrificing your health, right? And find a lifestyle, a way of living and a place for living that you enjoy. Instead of, you work so that you can live and enjoy, not live just to work, right? And again, there was no real agenda other than basically creating community and like-mindedness and sharing of experiences and ideas. And believe it or not, over 90 people came. We're talking about a 5 or 6 week warning time before arrival. Okay, so there was some scrambling going on to get hotels and flights booked, or Airbnbs. I mean, there were a lot of us ordered grass-fed meat from grass-fed Costa Rica down there, so we could have meat brought to us. I could cook at my hotel. I'll tell you a little more about that. But it was fantastic. So, about 5 to 6 weeks, over 90 people came from all over the world, actually, mostly US and Canada, but many from Europe, people from Belgium, Croatia, Holland. It was like there was people from South America. I think Peru, may have been Colombia, but I thought it was Peru. One person there from Israel who happens to be, studying some and living some in the US, but basically based out of as Israel. So it was, and of course, Aussies. There's always Aussies somewhere, right? There's always a couple of Aussies, that were there, but who just live in the U.S. or travel around and are doing their thing. But quite a mix, as you get the idea. And there's some expat Americans who are just already living there, and there are many who are coming there who are considering moving to Costa Rica, or they're open to moving somewhere. And that Costa Rica was certainly on the list. But again, incredible group of people, all motivated by improving their health with lifestyle. So like the way they eat, the way they sleep, how they move, how they live, right? And again, varying degrees of experience with an animal-based diet, varying degrees of diet within that. Some were very strict animal only. Because if they were that way, it's because either they enjoyed it, they felt good on that, or because they were healing some, like as an elimination diet, healing some sort of ailment, healing inflammation through animal only, avoiding foods that would inflame. Um, and some who ate maybe 70, 80% animal food. Some that are just starting out. So 70, 80% animal, and they might have some tubers, or they might have, eating whole food, but some fruit, maybe some cooked veggies here and there. Some actually even ate white rice. I mean, it was a variety of people. It wasn't a militant fit in this box kind of, you've got to eat this way and people are going to look at you funny if you don't. It wasn't like that at all. It was very inviting. It was a welcome to all, even the meat curious, if you will, or the carnivore curious, if you want to call it that. Um, it was people who were just maybe a month or two in, and those who were many years in to eating this way. So very, very open group, but all with the same understanding, right? No judgment, again, because people are starting out or figuring it out, adjusting, having to eat a certain way because of physical things they're trying to reverse, right? But a lot of nuance, essentially, for each person's diet, and allowing for each person to have that nuance, but with an understanding that animal-based foods, especially ruminants and organ meats, are the most bioavailable, micronutrient-dense foods we have available. And we need to avoid processed foods, sugar, processed grain oil, seed oils, like soybean, canola oil, cottonseed oil, all those oils, the hateful eight, to avoid them at all costs, right? And we come together. We come together. I came in. I had a horrible time getting there, just being delayed with flights, and came in on the first dinner in progress that night. I had meant to get there earlier that morning, or actually originally the day before, but just had a mess. Not to get into that, but came in on dinner in progress, meeting with these people at this dinner at this hotel outside, of course, outside hotel, or outside restaurant. Meeting these people I'd only engaged with on a Discord channel, except for one. There was one, No Reason to Be Vegan. If you know that handle on IG, it had some messaging with No Reason to Be Vegan before that. But Kelsey, wonderful. I finally got to meet Kelsey there at the dinner, after some messages and sharing of each other's content on IG. But other than that, really knew no one else. And there were those who came as families or couples, or came as a group, knew each other. But I just came in and started eating, right, cutting meat with friends, making new friends, and very inviting. Trying to remember as many names as I could, but of course, it was welcome. When I'm in Costa Rica, I'm eating great food with like-minded people who don't think it's weird that I just want to primarily eat some meat and maybe some grilled pineapple and a little papaya, and have a seconds on meat. That wasn't weird. It was actually common. So it was the theme. It was that like-mindedness of our deal of what our diet, our plate should look like. So fantastic right there. So we have that in common. And then it was just, there was no real clickiness, edginess, drama. A fantastic group, 90 people, most of them never met before, come together on a spur of a moment, no drama. You know what I mean by drama? No infighting. No, well, I want this. Well, can we do it this? It was the ones that made it. Of the ones that made it, there was a lot of people on the channel saying, oh, they might go, looking into it, asking questions. The ones that made it, the ones who made the effort to get there, no drama. They knew it was going to be about making this work, making this happen. It was kind of pulled together, not to be perfect, but to be what it was, a community. And so we acted like a community. It was amazing. So the next morning, started off with, we had arranged a few things: surf lessons for those who wanted it, or just get out there surfing. So we went all kind of carpooled up, whether you're on a moped, ATV, or rented a car, got up to this beach not too far away from Santa Teresa. I had some hour and a half of surf lessons, very much needed because it had been 3 decades since I stood on a surfboard. That wasn't that great then. The afternoon, we hiked up to some waterfalls, um, which had like 3 drops of waterfall. So one was a 9-foot drop, not a big deal. Everybody jumped there. And then there was a 30-foot drop. The one past that was like 45 foot plus. I don't know what it was. So I didn't get close enough to look. Nobody did that. Handful of people jumped off the 30-foot. I was not one of them. I just not my not my thing. I love water. I don't like falling that far, right? So it's all about the landing. But anyway, it was wonderful. I had a great time swimming in the water between the waterfalls. Hung out there for several hours after hiking, probably an hour to get around to it. Maybe a little over hiking because we missed it the first time. But fantastic, but tired and hungry. So we all went to dinner together. This fantastic barbecue place run by this guy from Jersey. It's called Kook's there in Santa Teresa. And we ate about all the ribeye and brisket they could make. We called ahead, told them extra we were coming, and they made all this wonderful brisket and ribeye. And we just had a great time. And we took up almost the entire restaurant, like 80% of their tables, maybe 90, just front, upstairs and down, took over. And they really took care of us. So if you go to Santa Teresa, go to Kook's. It's fantastic. But I mean, just a great time. And I was quickly reminded of the use it or lose it principle when it came to my Spanish. Many of the locals I spoke to, like my driver, people in the stores, because I like to go out and just go to the stores and get what I need, like water or butter for cooking or some fruit, things like that. I like to just get out, walk, and try to engage. And many of them, or people, even the guard at the hotel, the night guard at the hotel, didn't speak English or didn't speak very much. And my Spanish was super rusty. I was even mixing a few Italian words in there, which got kind of confusing. But to me, that's enjoyable. To me, that's part of the fun of being in a different country. It's part of if you want to I wouldn't call it a challenge, but it's just part of the experience. And you're both two people trying to communicate from different languages or roughly understanding the others, maybe. And them being forgiving of me butchering their language. What was funny, I went in the store and I was looking for Ziploc bags. I need something to store some meat in. I was getting ready to leave. But anyway, I was trying to store some meat, refrigerate. And I went in the store and I'm trying to, rather than look for it, I was kind of in a hurry. And it was the only thing I wanted when I went there at that time. And I wanted Ziploc bags. I'm like, okay, what are they going to call these things? I'm like, bolsas de plástico, which means bags of plastic, bolsas de plástico para comida. The girl's looking at me like, I'm like, what? Like this, the crossed eyebrows. What's he trying to say? And para comida, she takes me over to what their paper plates are. And I see these little sandwich bags, right? And I'm making all sorts of hand gestures, like stuff and it's just ridiculous, laughable, but at the same time, probably very frustrating for her. Shooting with the paper plates and sandwich bags. So I'm like, oh, esto, pero más grande, right? These, but bigger. She's like, oh, Ziploc. I'm like, see, Ziploc. I had been making it way too complicated. Bolsas de plástico. Way too complicated. Take me straight back to the back. It's a back wall, big boxes, several boxes of Ziploc that if I'd walked straight back, I would have been able to see quite clearly. But I made it way too complicated. Nothing to get stressed about when you're communicating if you just relax and, engage with a person, right? Beyond just the language. But we figured it out. Ziploc. I'll have to remember that. Ziploc. Costa Rica is a rugged country. If you've ever been there, much like other parts of Central America, it's not resort-like, right? There's a few more developed areas, like because of condo developments or resort developments, and a lot of heavy tourism, but most of it's not like that. There's a few pockets of that, but most of it's not. And driving there is like a mix of like Frogger and GTA. It's like, I mean, there's cars, there's ATVs, there's motorcycles, maybe people riding the bike down the middle of the street, or uh, people, construction trucks and buses going through them, people passing on blind curves to get around the buses and the big construction trucks. It's not so. And then you have people walking along the edge of the road, no shoulder, um, with the total, just drop off for drainage. And it seemed like there were no rules at all. It just seemed like uh, there were no rules of the road. Even the main strip of the middle of town was like a narrow road, 2-lane. There weren't really lanes drawn, and if there was no one coming, I mean, literally a 2-lane road with the middle of town. They were passing all the time. You see a car passing an ATV or someone on a bike in the middle of the road, and again, people always walking up and down. Dogs, friendly dogs everywhere, walking down the road, middle of the road. Um, it was it was a little wild. You definitely had to pay attention walking, and even then, you're at the mercy of the people driving. But it was um, a lot of crazy driving that made us all kind of go, "Oh, hello, this is not like where we're from, right?" Um, and but yet, I mean, we did it. No one got hurt in our group. 90 people. We're talking about 90 people, and again, rented ATVs. One couple that got a moped to go up to. I was like, he's a cyclist, fortunately, so he had to pedal a bit going up the hills. But it was like, wow, brave, made it work. You go there and improvise. Some people were in cars. They said it was the driving was not easy. Very grateful for those who gave me a ride. So, you see a lot of people riding on the back of ATVs. There's ATVs. People get around a lot between the beach towns, and then people riding on the back, or maybe they have dogs riding on the back, or see two people on a motorcycle. Maybe one's holding a big bag of ready mix cement or some kind of construction product, like this 40-pound bag sitting on the back of the motorcycle, and they're going down the road. Or there was one guy told me he saw two people on a motorcycle, both holding over their shoulder 20-foot long, a couple like 20-foot long PVC pipes, like 3 pipes that are, like 4-inch diameter, 20 feet long PVC on the shoulder, sticking out both directions from the motorcycle. They're riding down the road. And, it's a different place. Once we got into town, I mean, I never saw a police officer outside of the airport. They may have been there. I didn't notice them. I didn't notice police. There were some, medic, maybe fire department stuff. No, I didn't notice police at all. No one's patrolling the roads that I saw. But I only was, again, in Santa Teresa. I took this flight from San Jose. It's a little puddle jumper, like an 8-passenger plane, San Jose to a little landing strip called Tambor, to get out to the peninsula where Santa Teresa is. And it's like a 45-minute drive from there, rather than 4 or 5 hour drive from the airport. And that was fantastic. Just going over the mountains with all the clouds, and then down over, you cross the bay with little islands in it, big islands in it, to the peninsula, and coming down into that. I just got a huge view of the landscape that was incredible, just absolutely beautiful. So I definitely recommend going that way. It saves you a lot of time, and it's a beautiful trip, and this, and smooth ride. Those pilots just go up and down all day. It's great. So they know what they're doing. But it was, again, it's a rugged place. We raccoons and maybe monkeys getting into the kitchenettes and the fridges at night. So some of the bungalows where I was staying, the kitchenette was actually outside next to the patio. City patio right outside the front of the door. It was a freestanding building with like a tin roof, A-frame building, so not A-frame, but you get a typical tin roof, pitch roof with, but tin roof. So you heard all the rain hitting, right? It's like a sound machine, but louder. But the kitchenette was on the outside, so it didn't heat up the room. So you had a little fridge, mini fridge, and a stove top with a couple burners and some pans, a sink, and a coffee maker. And you'd hear them trying to get into it at night. One day, I'd forgotten to latch them. Didn't realize how important it was. And I came and everything was open. The fridge was open. Fortunately, they didn't get my meat. They got a plantain. They kind of chewed up a little bit. But I know someone else who lived up the next bungalow over, on a different night, they had managed to flip the latch on the fridge that she had and opened it up and got all the her fruit out of it. Um, so, and it sounded like probably monkeys. Raccoons could have gotten it, but it was all gone. There was nothing left. There was no remnants of it. So, but there were, yeah, howler monkeys waking up 5:30 in the morning. So it started howling as the sun comes up, and then raccoons roll around at night, and always some stray cats around looking for any scraps, stray kittens. So it was again, friendly dogs everywhere, everywhere. Like trying to get in your room, they'll try to hop up on your ATV, try to get in the car with you. One came, I was waiting for my shuttle, which was late, coming to pick me up to take me back to the little airport, the little landing strip. And this dog comes over and just, I'm like stressing out because he's late. We're trying to figure out what a ride's going to be, what our option is, trying to call a taxi driver, call another driver to see how long it would take them to get there so we wouldn't miss our flight. And this dog comes up and just sits right on my feet and, and right at my legs, sits at my feet. I'm thinking, what? Is it because I smell like meat? Like, what's the deal? Why is this dog sitting at my feet? I must smell like meat or something. There's no way I still smell like kids and dogs from home. So, and then he lays down on my feet, and then I'm like moving around because I'm stressed. I'm walking. I'm like pacing a little bit and come back, and he wraps around and walks under my feet, sitting between my legs. Like, it's like my little comfort dog, basically a little comfort animal support dog to calm me down while I was trying to, figure out what to do to get to the airport. And, it's just that kind of charm to it. It's not all perfect. It's not all polished. It's very rugged and free, and few rules enforced other than COVID strong there. So you do have to wear a mask often. They have a curfew at 9 right now, which is interesting. But it does get dark there at 6 o'clock in the summer. So we everything was planned early. We started early, and ate early, ate maybe at 5 or 6 often. And usually talking until we couldn't. We were usually exhausted from the day's events anyway. But it was just brilliant. So as I mentioned, I ordered some grass-fed meat from grass-fed Costa Rica. This guy, Diego, runs it, and he delivered to my hotel at the Banana Beach bungalows. And I had kitchenette was outside. You can see it in my travel story highlights. If you go to Instagram, look at my story highlights. I saved them to the one that says travel. But I was eating ribeyes and plantains for breakfast, cooked in butter. It was so good. Pretty much every morning, I was just eating to keep up with the activities, and had some sirloin, had some flat irons, steaks, and it was delicious. Got some tropical fruit. Got some of the papayas and mangoes, stuff like that. But it was brilliant. It was amazing. I just go out there and pan fry it up and make sure I locked it up so the little raccoons and other varmints couldn't get to it. But brilliant. So fun, nourishing, right? And easy. I mean, I enjoy that. We got to go Sunday. We went on 50 of us went on a big sailboat, hired out a big sailboat with like the big double pontoons, right? As a double pontoon, so you almost like, I guess you could race it. I don't know, but double pontoons, big sail. And we went out open water. We went out for about 4.5, 5 hours ish out into the ocean, about a half mile offshore. Could go out swimming in the ocean. Just stopped one place, went out swimming. There was like a little place where there's a little volcano top, like a depressed volcano. So it was basically a few of us swam out that far to it to dive down to kind of see it. It had probably about 30 feet, 40 feet deep. I don't know. We had to put on some goggles and dive down about 8-10 feet. Just so you could see like this, basically a little hole in the bottom of the ocean floor with bubbles coming out of it. Like, but it was cool. We're about a quarter mile, so halfway between the boat and the land. And so not everybody got out that far, but it was cool. It was just out there, enjoying the water's like 80 degrees. It was incredible, just like therapy, right? Just the nourishing of everything in the water, the salt floating out there, just the calmness of it. Talking to people, like-minded people again. It was a community. The crew on the ship. We went to another place where was a big island, a big rock island thing. We tried to swim to it. Waves were too much, but we still swam around there, hung out. Crew grilled tenderloin for us and liver. One thing you never see where else, but with this group, when they brought out the plate of like seared liver, little liver slices, everyone went in after it. You never see liver goes down and everyone's like liver, and everyone kind of comes in grabbing a piece. That's the first time I'd ever see everybody diving for liver, but it's funny. It's like, that's the group you're in. And then came out with the raw liver strips, some little strips of truly raw liver. A lot of them eat raw organs on a regular basis, raw organ meats, not just liver, but heart, spleen, thymus, kidney, testicle. Some people do that. It's just what you're into. Not everyone, but there's a lot of that, getting those nutrients from the most bioavailable sources. But yeah, the raw liver strips was like, still a good portion of people had them and just swallow it. They were into it. And that's what they did anyway. So yeah, a bit of a unique group, but a fun one. And there was no judgment. It was like moral, very encouraging, very, hey, let's try it. You haven't done it before? Try it. Try something new. Give it a shot. And we actually gathered one last mornings I was there, just to discuss and ask questions about regenerative farming. If you're not familiar with regenerative farming, you can look up stuff like Polyface Farms, Sacred Cow by Dana Rogers. But Polyface Farms has been featured in several documentaries about food and the sourcing of food. So basically, regenerating the soil, putting nutrients back into the soil using animals, because animals are the only way you can do it. You get that nitrogen and the carbon sequestering in the soil with use of whether it's just ruminant animals or different types of animals coming one after the other. First your cows, then your sheep, your pigs, and your chickens, and they help each other with reducing the parasites or eating different types of the grubs, and then they re-fertilize the soil and stir up the soil depending on how they graze. Right. So it's a whole process and a system of farming that is not for big monocropping. It's quite the opposite. It's if you're creating nutrient dense animal food, and you can put some, annual perennials on there. Like if you want trees with, apple trees or something like that, orange tree, not an orchard, but like have them there where the animals are going through part of it. Right. And there's ways you could do some other crops with the animals coming in afterwards, and you can crop rotate. So that's all part of it. But basically talking about how that works. Regenerative farming, questions about it, how to get it funded if you want to get it funded. Where are good places to do it? How much land do you need for how many, so just a kind of a meeting of the minds to discuss it. And because there are people who are interested in doing that. So and there are few people there who had some just farming experience, but people who are looking for a way to make that their new lifestyle, as well as creating not just regenerated soil, but a very nutrient dense food source that lines up with the way we should be eating. So it's not about, the CAFO grain fed, packed in these little stalls kind of cattle thing, or the way we raise chickens now and that kind of thing. It's just much more of like, if you would call it free range or grass fed, original, natural farming environment for food sources, and more people doing it on a smaller scale to create more, supply, a healthier supply. So it was a great little powwow to kick off the conversation with this community. There was a woman there who works with Timothy Noakes, who is an MD. Timothy Noakes, an MD, doctor of science, who was, if you haven't seen it, definitely look it up. I'll link to his website in the show notes. He also has a degree in exercise science, but he was prosecuted, and then for basically promoting a low carb, high fat diet to people for prevention of disease. And then it was appealed by the people who were coming after him. So he was prosecuted, found innocent in 2017. The people who were pressing against him, basically an establishment group in the medical and nutrition, government kind of position, for promoting, your typical processed food, high carb diet. They thought what he was saying was dangerous. So they appealed it, came back after him again in 2018. He was cleared again in 2018 of wrongdoing. Basically, so a lot of it, I want to understand, over a tweet, literally a tweet, as giving supposedly medical advice, right? But he's done a lot to promote. You see him featured in a low carb down under several times. Look him up on YouTube. You see his videos, but just a huge promoter from South Africa. So Timothy Oakes is based in South Africa. All of his foundations in South Africa, his education, and he creates education materials for everyone, really, for everyone to learn. But he's trying to create education materials for doctors who are functional medicine doctors, nurses, nutrition coaches, nutritionists, dietitians, and so forth, to have based on low carb, high fat, animal based diet. Right. And there's a woman there who works with him and with his foundation who was taking testimonials, video testimonials of people who, what their story was with, like, how did this animal based low carb diet change your health? What's your story? Like she asked for 2 minutes. I gave her 5, of course, because I'm kind of long winded and this is, I just can't help but continue to talk. But that was exciting that she was able to take this to Timothy Noakes and hopefully use it to create some sort of testimonial, okay, which is not research, of course, but it's testimonial, and it can be used in a setting of statistics and epidemiological study, to show, hey, maybe we should look closer here, because these people are having this great experience with it and are reversing diseases with it, as she had. I mean, this woman who herself had severe IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, that turned into ulcerative colitis to the point that she was actually hospitalized because she was so weak by the blood loss from her colon. So her colon was bleeding out, right, from the colitis and from the ulcers in her colon, and because of her diet. And she basically went to an animal-based diet to reverse that, heal herself. She's still healing, and she has some other foods, right, like some fruit, maybe a little bit of sweet potato here and there, not a lot of heavy fiber foods at all, no vegetable, and still healing, and a little bit of like maybe raw or yogurt here and there to help her digest certain things. But she had a problem that no one else could touch, and she was able to reverse it with diet rather than surgery and pharmaceuticals. Okay. And it's a journey, but that's how she wanted to do it, because she knows that the long-term effect is going to be much better when she's actually healed. So creating like an elimination diet with animal-based carnivore type diet. But she was taking these testimonials there. She was there with us through the whole week, or 4 or 5 days, to take back to him. So it's very exciting. Very, again, a great diverse group of people. So yeah, I didn't mention South Africa. 2 people there, including her, from South Africa, in addition to Europe, New Zealand, Israel, South America. I mean, we hit most of the continents, basically. And that's what this was about. This was Paul's goal. Just talking to him. He didn't have a big agenda other than create community of like-minded people who support each other, want to learn, want to grow, and eventually influence and make an impact on the awareness of the benefits of animal-based diet and regenerative farming. So we have the source for it that is, beneficial to the environment as well as to the animal and to the nutrition, right? All 3 important, right? The earth and the environment, the animal itself, and then to us who are consuming it. And maybe create new opportunities in regenerative farming down there, or for other people, knowledge, financial opportunity to start that, just to get the ball rolling, get the conversation started, get ideas coming from a group of people who have come from different backgrounds, from financial backgrounds, some farming, some are just very curious and want to change their life because they're unsatisfied with what their current lifestyle is. And he's definitely going to be doing more in the future he gave us what, 5 or 6 weeks notice maybe, and 90 people showed up with little framework in place, and it was amazing. I think he'll be doing at least once a year, and I'll definitely be going back when he has more, and definitely for a longer period of time. I was only there, really, with my flight delay, I was only there about 4 days, so not long enough. But I'd love to go a week, 10 days, and really be a part of the whatever's playing on the agenda with the group, stay a little longer, enjoy more of Costa Rica, and engage with people a little bit longer. And once we all, re-engage, after a few days, then you start to relax and say, hey, I want to talk to this person a little bit more. Let's, more of that community building, and just enjoy it and be able to settle in rather than worry about how to travel in and out within 4 days. But yeah, I definitely go back again and again and be part of it, because what he's doing is important, and it's making a difference. It's giving people, again, a place to be supported and to learn and to grow in a fun environment, but where people would, instead of we learn a lot connecting on like podcasts, social media, through videos, but this is like engagement back and forth, face to face. And you've got to know, after the year and a half we've had, how important that is. How important it is to see people, connect with people, communicate with people, touch people, face to face, engage. That is often lost through a screen, definitely lost through a one-sided, like this is, conversation or communication. One-sided communication. It's not a conversation at all. It's my monologue. Or even when you have two people talking, those are great. They're fantastic. It's a way to be able to connect and create community and learn, and it's made all of this possible. So not to say that that's negative, but I think it should lead to connection, to further connection, more people who are like finding each other, who have a common concept, ideology, and come together and create something. When normally separated, they wouldn't have had the resources or the energy or the support to get something done. And then now they can find each other, communicate, organize through social media, through other communication methods, and then come together and make it happen. And that's what he's done. And that's what he's kicking off. It's incredible. He got a bunch of outliers together and created a community. He herded cats, and that's not a negative thing at all to anyone. I'm one of them, to get the outliers together, to feel like, I'm not such a weirdo, to be around other people who are, the like-mindedness, not to isolate ourselves from everyone else, but to be able to come together. But that it's the support, it's the growth, it's the communication, and it really was a supportive group, exchanging experience. I learned so much talking to other people, things about how they've affected their sleep. I think some people talking about breath work, which I've talked about recently. Some cold exposure. That's one thing. Maybe he mentioned maybe including some way to get some cold exposure, cold plunge, figure out some way to do that. We're talking about, how do we improve this? How do we make it easier to travel, to transport everyone when there's 400 people there instead of 90, right? Which is very likely going to happen in the next one or two of them. There could be easily 300-400 people there next time. And how do we get that many people from place to place? And where does that host it? And what do we do? How do we organize that? How do we improve this? Everyone's a part of it. And we're all exchanging experiences on lifestyle habits. This, as I said, stories of correcting our health issues, not just about weight loss. It's not just about weight loss, but stories, with inflammation, digestion, autoimmune, PCOS, those kind of things. All of those were there. All those stories were there. I was heading to the airport after having breakfast. I was about to go to the airport that morning, before I started panicking about the driver not showing up, and then the support dog showed up. I was having breakfast with about half a dozen other people at the hotel that had cooked up the meat we had, some of our grass-fed meat, with some steak, some of the sirloin I brought over, some liver that someone else brought, a little bit of fruit. Really, I just just say liver breakfast. It was some of the best prepared liver that the hotel did I'd ever had. We brought it to them. It's a grass-fed liver from grass-fed Costa Rica, but it was they prepped it for us. They cooked it for us, and then brought out some fruit, like some plantains and some papaya and stuff. It was fantastic. But they and then they said, "Oh, you're going to play here. Take some of this." There was some left over that hadn't been eaten, and I had my Ziploc, right? Had my Ziploc because I'd had a little bit of mine left over in my bag, and they packed up what was some of the left from the breakfast. Oh yeah, take it here, take it for you. I'm like, I just realized usually I'm the only one packing meat to go on a plane, right? It was great to be with other people who travel with meat on their carry-on instead of them giving me funny looks like I'm a weirdo who travels with meat. But, and they'll let you take cooked meat, raw meat, not so much, but cooked meat, they'll let you take on the airplane. And so, yeah, the Ziploc full of the leftover sirloin, and some avocado thrown in there for the plane. That was one kind of them, generous to me. Hey, take this, looking out for me. Two, like as I said, we all do it. And we say, yeah, I brought this much meat over there. I'm with a table full of people who travel with meat. That's never happened to me before this trip. But yeah, the Hotel Tropical Latino, they cook the meat for us. We bring for them for the, as I mentioned before, with the size of plantains, papaya, pineapple, whatever. They cook up the sirloin for us. I mean, it was awesome. In case you can't tell, meat is one of my love languages. So, just say it for gift, but meat is I say that all the time. Meat is my love language. And I was around other people for whom it was the same. So it was kind of cool. But you'll see some of my pics. If you want to see some of my pics, I look at, as I mentioned before, my Instagram travel highlights. The highlights at the bottom. Look for the travel one. I think I'm going to create a highlight just for this trip, or maybe just for when he does more of I might call it the remembering. I might call it remembering Costa Rica or animal-based Costa Rica. I don't know, but look something like that. Okay, look for something like that of a highlight for us, and I'll pull. We're all uploading a variety of our shared images and even some video from the trip. Most of those probably be images because the video we had a hard time sharing, but I'll put in some of my video. And for from other people who went, we're sharing them, and I'll download them and put them on that travel on the specific highlight for that trip. You'll see some of my personal stuff. So when I was cooking food on the beach, things from some of the other stuff we were doing, the waterfalls on the IG travel right now, it's there. But I'll create that highlight just for these images so you can see more of what we did and who the people that were there, and the variety of things that people are into, doing some acro yoga just because they do it already. There's a lot of yoga. There's people who are very athletic and some who are not athletic at all. I mean, it was not just a bunch of gym rats at all by any stretch. Very active people, very healthy people. Some people, again, different places on their journey. It's not exclusive to, if you will, someone like me who is a trainer who's been working out for 30 years and watching their diet for 20 years. No, it's not all like people who have this extensive experience in a healthy lifestyle, right? All levels of entry and different ages. I was actually one of the oldest at 50. Not the oldest, but one of them, one in the top 10 for sure. Several in their 30s and 40s, many in their 20s. It was great. And then I had a few in their late 50s, and one couple, I think one guy was in his 60s, rocked, veins coming out. Took a great example of taking care of himself in his 60s. Amazing. But I'm gonna I'm gonna link to Paul's podcast, Paul's Instagram. If you want to follow him, he's a great resource. If you're meat curious or animal-based curious, if you will, and you want to understand more about animal-based diet, he's a fantastic resource, as well as some of the previous guests I've had on the podcast, like Ken Berry, Diana Rogers, who I mentioned, produced Sacred Cow. Amber Wentworth, who's Lone Star Keto Girl, had her on. Carnivore Yogi, Perpetual Health Co. Look back at some of those. Michelle Hearn, who's Run, Eat, Meet, Repeat, another dietitian like Diana Rogers, who's animal based, meat based. So uh, those are the people that got me here, including Paul, who just I haven't had Paul on my podcast yet. I'm hoping. I'm asking, but I've learned from them. When I started the podcast, I engaged, as I mentioned in one of my most recent posts or podcasts. Learn from these people by talking to them, by being part of the community, by plugging in. That the podcast helped me with was engaging in deeper conversations than just your typical little chats, right? Social media chats, and digging and seeing what they were about, what they thought, getting the depth of their experience, and many of them working with people to help them, right, as coaches. So when you're not just helping yourself, you not just have your own diet, but a diet that helps other people. You get quite a spectrum of experience from that, more perspective. And these people I've learned a lot from, and has helped me to change to rely more on. Basically, I'm eating maybe my plate hasn't changed dramatically, my body hasn't changed that dramatically. But what has changed is I'm relying more on animal-based nutrition, animal-based food for my sources of bioavailable micronutrients, as well as the protein, the fats, but getting my micronutrients from things like sardines, egg yolks, liver, organ meats, oysters, right? And just good old-fashioned red meat, ruminant meat, lamb, cow, whatever. That's how it's changed. It's increased that. So maybe my meat I eat is maybe increased by 30%. I don't know. I need a little less of other things. And I'm better for it. And I'm thankful for being engaged in this community. And I think, if you apply yourself and you're ready to listen and learn, you can find what works for you. Find your nuance. Find using those principles: whole food, not processed food, whole food, low carb, animal-based, nutrient-dense food as your cornerstone of nutrition. So go follow them on Instagram, plug into their channels. Paul and Ken are also big on YouTube. If you like YouTube, they have, I think, a lot of videos there, and some others might be now. But I mean, Paul and Ken I know are big on YouTube. So definitely go check them out. I will link to them in the show notes, as well as Paul's podcast, Fundamental Health podcast. Dig in and maybe consider on the next one joining us if this is of interest to you. It's, again, a great community. It was a lot of fun. It was very adventurous. If you're into physical activity and venture, and you don't mind a little rugged terrain, Costa Rica is a great place for it. It's not a spa vacation. Okay. It's not a resort spa. Get your rub down, walk at the beach, look like someone's bringing, there was service there. You could get service and food and drinks if you want to do that. But the activities, things we're doing are very adventurous. They're very active. Like I said, surfing and hiking waterfalls, and there'll be more of that kind of stuff. It's a physical thing, and it's a rugged country. So just so you know, but other than that, if you're open to that and you're ready to learn and plug in and see, where that takes you, okay? Not to fit in a box, but to just learn more and figure out what is, as I said, works best for you. Find your own nuance of a diet with these basic cornerstones. If these appeal to you, then great place to plug in. Highly recommend it. I look forward to meeting you there. Have a great week.